Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Grand Oshkosh. My name is Joe Ferlo. I am the director of the Grand, and tonight, my live question and answer session with you comes to you as a fireside chat right here from the warming room at the Grand Oshkosh. The warming room, you walk through two of them, one or two of them, when you come to a show downstairs. They are aptly named. They have fireplaces, obviously, in them, non-working fireplaces. But back in the day, 137 years ago, the warming rooms were the place from which the heat came for the theater. There was no furnace in the 1883 Grand Oshkosh, Grand Opera House. And all of the heat in the building came from these two rooms and their fireplaces, and from the gas lamps and the gas chandelier and the gas stage lights that were burning throughout a show. So people would huddle their ways back here. There was a men's warming room, and we're in the ladies' warming room. And that is where they get their name. Like so many things in the Grand, their names are useful and descriptive. Which brings me to my first question: why are there so many grand opera houses in the world? There are several, obviously. Even now, there's one in Texas. There's one in right here in southern Wisconsin. Actually, it's across the border in Dubuque. Grand Opera House is not only a name for the theater; it's a descriptor. And it dates all the way back to the 1880s and prior. Opera houses in those days were built flat floors, small stages on the second floor of what was either a lobby space or usually a retail space. We have a great example of that here in Oshkosh. The Wagner Opera House, where Wagner Market is located, is indeed an old school opera house. If an opera house was built more like a theater with a sloped raked floor and a proscenium arch in the front and a theater seating that was permanent in the hall, it was called a grand opera house. So not only was it our name, it was a description of what the building was. So as we go on here, I encourage you to feel free to leave your questions in the comments section, whether you're following on YouTube or on Facebook. You can leave your questions here. I'll see them and I'll do my best to answer them for you. I have a collection of questions that's been gathered and put in front of me, and until I hear something from you, feel free to just comment too. Say, I know many of you are calling just to check on the progress of my corona wave, and it is now almost a fully flowing main. So, but if you have some questions along the way, that would be useful too as well. The first question submitted is probably the most obvious and the most pressing of questions. How's the Grand adapting to things with the pandemic? We are closed, as I'm sure you know, and as every assembly hall and theater is right now. We've been fortunate. We've been able to keep our core staff on board, and they continue to work from their homes. We meet weekly as a group, a Zoom staff meeting, and boy, I guess between Zoom and Slack, the online messaging service, we're in touch with each other pretty much on a regular basis, more than one time a day. Today was an average day for me with 3 or 4 Zoom meetings, 3 plus this live question and answer. So we're staying in touch, and we're working there, and there's a lot to be done still. Some of the staff are still working on the rescheduling of events. We lost over 20 events in the course of the season of the pandemic, from the time we closed in mid-March through the end of the summer. And so we've had to schedule, you'll see there, the postponed and canceled shows. Several of the shows have been postponed into the new season, which I'll be announcing next week on May the 8th. And others have been outright canceled, and will be picked up from there. So our staff has to deal with communicating with the ticket holders, either helping them find their way to the new dates, or if need be, to donate their tickets as a donation to the theater, which is always a wonderful option, or if need be, to refund their tickets, their ticket prices to them. So there's a lot of work kind of going on with that. There is the rescheduling of the shows, which lays somewhat on me, but also on our program and events manager, Shauna Terry, who works with the local and the regional promoters and arts partners. All the moved dates have to find their way in a calendar and still work their way around alongside and with the new dates that I've been programming going forward. So all of that has to happen. Obviously, we're in a constant scramble, is probably not an inappropriate word for funding. We all of our revenue source pretty much is dried up right now for the time being. Certainly there are no ticket sales, there are no rentals, and there are no concessions being sold. So we rely now on donations, and typically at this time of year we do. This is the time of year when our spring campaign starts, and it raises usually a good chunk of our operating capital to get through the summer and the fall. So that hasn't changed, except for the fact that, well, everybody is scrambling right now to raise funds, and it's everything from obviously very basic needs to shelter and food, and we've got education needs, and we've got human resources needs, we've got medical needs. There are a lot of things out there that we're all trying to take care of as a community. But my job and Michelle Gress's job is to make sure that we're out there still raising funds for the Grand, acknowledging the fact that there's a lot of other concerns in the community, but realizing that come late summer or fall, or whenever it is that we reopen, that we're out, all of us are out in the world again, that you'll be counting on the Grand to be one of those places where you can go and you can find your way back into a routine of life. So that's another big part of what's going on, keeping us busy. We've got obviously a lot of marketing going on, trying to stay in front of you with things like this and things that are going on in our Grand at Home channel, which is a YouTube page. We've been doing concerts now for a month on Fridays and Saturday nights with some regional and some local and some national artists who have all given their time to broadcast a show from their basement or their living room or wherever they are. They have an opportunity to do that. And the idea is that we want to just stay in front of you. We want to still be a go-to place for entertainment. We'll be adding some student performances to that channel soon. I might work on a little cocktail hour with some artists where I'll just sit and chat over a beverage with some artists that you may not recognize, and find out some things about them. And we'll stay in front of you that way. But obviously there's a whole bunch of scheduling going on there. David Lang is working with the locals and the regional folks in particular. I'm out there. I want to say calling in favors, but it's more like begging for help from colleagues and friends of ours who are out there in the field, and so that is another part of what's keeping us busy. And then as we start to work our way back into getting ready, we've got to keep this building in shape, ready to go. We want to make sure she's clean. We want to make sure she's operating. We want to make sure that when the time comes, we don't have to go back to spring training to bring everything up to speed. So the staff is staying very busy. That's what's keeping us busy at the moment. And at the same time, we're looking towards what's going to happen in the weeks and the months ahead. This week, tomorrow, actually, I'll be announcing online in a webinar for teachers. I'll be announcing the 2020-21 Student Discovery Series, which is a great program that for kids to come and see shows at the Grand. It is sponsored by the Amcor Foundation. We sure appreciate their support, and it's part of a great program of things for the community and for the kids called Every Child, Every Grade, Every Year, which is an initiative funded by the JEK Foundation. So we were really pleased to have that support. And again, we're going to announce the season knowing full well that we have no real solid idea just yet what the fall is going to look like. Still, we want to be prepared. We want the teachers to know what's going on. And we'll work forward from there. So that will be announced tomorrow. And then a week from tomorrow, on May the 8th, will be the online announcement of the 2020-21 main stage season here at the Grand. And we have some special guests for that. The Beats will be joining us from Omaha. The twins are from Brazil originally. They were born into the slums of Brazil. Their story of finding their way to success through music is actually a pretty inspiring story, and one of the reasons that I've got such an affinity for this duo. We'll be bringing them in the fall to reopen the season. They were originally going to perform on this night, the 8th, as part of the Grand Night, our major fundraiser. And since we don't have that opportunity, we thought we would ask them to join us online. They're going to do about an hour set and kick things off. They're actually my opening act for that. Don't tell them I said that, because when that's over, I'll come on live and I will deliver the preview of the new season and answer any questions that folks might have along the way. So we've got a big bit of time ahead of us now. Where we're going to be working on planning, because really there's really no choice. You have to plan in advance for things that might be happening along the way. So I see that we've got some comments, so I'll go find my way here. Brian, good question. Is the new season fully booked? Yes and no. And what I mean by that is there's a season I will announce a week from tomorrow. That season is fully booked. It is, I think, 8 shows. It's smaller than usual, and it starts later than usual for the most part. It's a little backloaded for reasons that I think won't surprise anyone. But I guarantee that, assuming that we were to get back into a normal swing of things by the second half of the season going into 2021, that there'll be add-ons. There's still opportunities to add on. I'm discussing, some potential artists, some comedians, and some other things that I plan to add on to the season. And so I'm still doing a little bit of shopping, and the door's always open for your suggestions and interactions for that. So feel free to take part in that as well. Thank you, staff. There must be Jamie. Jamie is working on that, and you've seen me post that one already. But almost equally important is this one, and that's got to do with the immediate. I mentioned this annual fund drive, and of course that's going to start. Things should show up in people's mailboxes probably as early as this weekend, and certainly into next week. And we'll be doing our annual ask. But there's also the immediate ask. There's how are we going to bridge the gap between now and the time when revenue streams, donors and show sponsors and ticket sales start to find their way back. And we started a fund called the United We Grand Fund. And you'll see a link there for information as well as for the annual fund. The United We Grand Fund has a goal of $75,000 which is as best I could guess, the amount we were going to lose in the 3 months of shows that we were going to lose at a minimum. So we put that number out there, and we were trying to raise that in supplemental donations, things that were in addition to the work that's going on for the spring campaign for the new year. I'm pleased to report that we're closing in on the halfway point there. The community has been very generous. We've cleared 30,000 and are working our way up. And certainly, we appreciate the support of folks there as well. It is so important to have that support going forward. So we appreciate that very much. I'm going to turn to the submitted questions now. Oh, this is going to be an interesting one for me to answer because the answer is put here in front of me so that I don't mess it up. Next Tuesday is Giving Tuesday. What is Giving Tuesday now? Giving Tuesday now is a global day of giving. You're going to hear the Grand talking about Giving Tuesday. You're going to hear virtually every charitable organization in Oshkosh and in the Valley talking about Giving Tuesday. It's a place, it's a time of year when we just try to make things happen. Giving Tuesday is usually and regularly scheduled in December. Cyber Monday, Giving Tuesday. But Giving Tuesday now is a special Giving Tuesday. That's a global day of unity and support, and in an emergency response again to all of the nonprofits who have been affected by the pandemic, COVID-19. And so you'll see us talking about Giving Tuesday now. That will go to the United We Grand Fund and be a way that we can help find our way to be ready for you come the fall. As far as schedule, I mentioned as earlier that my first scheduled show for the Grand is currently September the 12th. Now we do have other shows on the schedule right now. Some as early as the middle of July. We have a reopening date set of July 15th. And so if you have tickets for those shows in July, don't let my September talk throw you off at all, because those shows currently are scheduled and will be until the promoters or the artists decide something, or the regulations decide something different. I'm sure that you all know that it's a greatly fluid process right now, and we'll keep our eyes open and we'll be ready to roll and move from there. But as far as the Grand season, that won't begin until we hit the fall. And September 12th is the date. Again, it's the B Twins, who you can also see in preview next Friday online as I announce the new season. So it's difficult, not difficult really. It's just it's fascinating to talk about how much the world is changing, and more specifically how the world of performing arts and arts venue management will be changed by this whole situation. I was talking to a colleague earlier today, I think it was, and I said, it'd be a great movie if I wasn't a character in it. And we're having a lot of discussions about what things will look like going into the fall. And while no decisions have yet been made, it's reasonable to understand that we may be looking at reducing our capacity in the Grand to allow for people to sit socially apart from each other. Our capacity of a little over 500, 300 when that happens. We try to implement social distancing options for our audiences. And, there are a couple things we had done already on site back in March before we had closed. We started to set up some hand sanitizer stations, and those are going to become a way of life here, and encouraging people to use the restrooms and wash and sanitizing stations. I'm sure we'll see masks. We'll see masks perhaps on our volunteers and on our staff. Sure, and hopefully in the audience if that's what we're expecting along the way. I think meet and greets will change. When you used to sit in the lobby and 400 people would hug a performer after a show. That's going to be different. I don't know how it's going to be different yet. We're still working on that. And with the artists, I talked to one of our key artists earlier today on a Zoom conference about how we might do the pre-signed memorabilia or pre-purchased, and then they'll sign it in front of you. But then it's just how might it be done? While maintaining distance between the artist and the performers. It's going to it's going to be a challenge and something we're going to work on. And all of that just continues to evolve. How will we sell beverages? We're one of those theaters that still tears tickets. You hand your ticket to someone, they rip it, they put it back in your hand. Every place where there's interaction and closeness like that are things that we're going to have to figure out. And our staff is already planning on that. We have, it's wonderful to take the positive approach of saying, hey, we might find our way to normalcy sooner rather than later. But the common sense approach right now is to be prepared for whatever comes. Because the ground's shifting constantly under us right now. And where we're going to go from here is, it's an industry-wide issue. And, I'm speaking with artists, I'm speaking with agents, I'm speaking with colleagues, speaking with non-theatrical venues. This is not a unique problem to the arts and to the theaters. It's a problem that's going to be anywhere where assembly is if you're a sports fan, any of your sports right now are deep into do we play in front of empty stadiums and minimize travel and find our way around things. And while I'm delighted that may mean that the Mets and the Yankees play each other a little more early, I don't think that, I think that any one of, 8 different plans might happen for any given sport. Same is true in the arts, and the same is true for venues. And what I'm grateful for is the intimacy of the Grand. It allows us to work our way through it, and even what is the sanitizing cleanup between shows? What is that going to look like going forward? Are we going to do something different along the way? Are we going to do something more? Are we going? All of that has to be worked through and figured out as we go. And it's among the conversations that are being had right now. It's there is a lot about what might happen as well as what's happening right now. So it's a two-way discussion that just has to has to be continued. This is a great question. Are there free ways that I can support the Grand? Absolutely. Absolutely there are. Don't get me wrong. I love when people write checks, and I love when they write all checks, $5,000 to $5,000, to $5 is every gift adds up. But if you can't do anything, if you just can't make it happen right now, the staff has given me a couple of things to share that, and what you need to remember is, for all of us now, social conversation is the only conversations we're having. So having a presence in social conversations is absolutely critical. It's one of the reasons that I will keep doing question and answers in the coming weeks, once a week, until we run out of questions and answers. And it's just so important for everyone to keep in mind, and you can help us remind people that the Grand is here. If you're watching this on social media, tag it, post it, use the hashtag, the United We Grand hashtag, you share it, invite others to join the group, or to watch an event, one of the weekend concerts together. Anything you do that keeps the word out that we're here, that we're not paralyzed, we're consistently trying to come up with new ways to engage our audiences, keep them engaged, and provide a little entertainment. Anything you can do that spreads the word in your social media is enormous. I hear all the time now, and it's obvious why you hear it, right? The concern with the virus is the spread, right? One person can infect 10, and then the 10 can infect 100, and before you know it, it's you've got an outbreak. Well, social media is like that too. One person helping to highlight what's going on at the Grand or what they're enjoying about things affects 10, and 10 affects 100. And before you know it, we've got a regular crowd of people who have not forgotten that the Grand is here at the time when the Grand reopens. I have been through that once before, and it's just so important. And so the most important thing you can do outside of financial support is simple moral support, and spreading the word about what we can do. We have a United We Grand profile picture frame, right? You can share posts and events. Obviously, watching the Grand at home performances. Leave a review, hopefully a good one. We all prefer that, but do the interaction. There's everything's got a spot to do it, and I think it's critical that we all stay in touch with each other along the way, and that is one of the most important things you can do. As you hear info, it's all word of mouth now, right? It's all word of mouth, whether it's word of mouth electronically or word of mouth. We need to tell people what's going on and where we go from there. So there are ways, and certainly there are things you can do to help us, and they don't all cost you some money. So this is a great question. Of course, is how do you choose the shows that are in your season? I've been doing this for 30 plus years now, and one thing I've learned, well, there's several things I've learned, is that for every person who thinks I'm great at picking shows for the Grand, there's someone who thinks I just don't know what the heck I'm doing. It's a delicate situation in an art center of our size, because we don't have, while we have 100 shows a year, we do, with all of the arts partners and the school performances and the touring productions and all of that. There are a lot of performances at the Grand, but the season at the Grand is not large enough to say we're going to have a Broadway series, or we're going to have a fine arts series, or we're going to have a blues series or a bluegrass series, or anything. Instead, I try to pick, maybe one of each over the course of a given year. And it ends up being a series of great variety. And the idea I've always felt was that, I don't expect person X to like everything that's in a Grand season. That's why we don't sell the season. You get to choose to get a discount or first choice of seats. Not all, you don't have to buy all of the shows. If I were a customer, I don't think I would choose all of the shows I choose in a season. They say in this business that the easiest way to fail is to only choose a season that you like, and I don't do that. I have staff who hit different demographics, who have different musical tastes. I have people like Brian who asked the question earlier if I was done yet with selections. I have people offering me suggestions all the time. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can make it work. Sometimes I can't. Once in a while, someone will say, well, let's have, Harry Connick Jr. or McIntyre or, Garth Brooks or whatever, or even an emerging. Let's have, boy, I'm drawing a blank. But then you fill in the blank with your favorite star. And you got to remember, now I have in my math, I'm not even doing math with 500 seats. I'm doing math with 300 seats, and I've got to break even. So ticket prices are a factor times seats, and sometimes I've got to try to keep that ticket price from being crazy high as well. Sometimes, as with the last couple of years when we've had the 4 Phantoms here, we have a lot of sponsors involved. Corporate sponsors who help underwrite the cost of the artist fee and help me to keep the ticket prices from going way through the roof. But it's a question of math, and it's a question of variety. I go to conferences. We actually have trade shows in this industry where there are booths with agents and artists and showcases of many performances of artists over 3, 4, 5 days. There are regional conferences I attend. There's an international conference that takes place in New York City in January. And of course, I've over the years, there are a lot of agents with whom I just have developed conversational relationships, friendships over the years. So it's a combination of all of those things. And it's going to be as difficult as choosing a season right now is during the pandemic. Choosing next season is going to have a whole different set of things, because if I were putting money down right now, my guess is that conference in New York in January doesn't happen. And if it does, we may not be able to afford to attend. And the regional conferences have some of the same issues. We're all going to have to cut back over this next year to make sure we make it. And so all of our work will be done virtually. We'll be contacting people and watching videos and having Zoom negotiations and figuring things out from there. But so it'll be interesting. Interesting is an interesting word to use for it. It'll be a challenge and it'll be different. It's not a short-term change. It's a short-term change with long-term adjustments that we'll have to make. And the successful arts administrators and staffs and boards of directors of arts organizations are going to be the ones who can read the flow and keep their audience and their base engaged and find their way. So when a season gets announced, if you discover there's 8 shows and you only like 4, chances are that's exactly what I was shooting for, because there's probably another person who likes a different 4. And there's a little taste of all of it, and not just the genres, but also the price breaks. You might see a headliner or 2 in our season, but I don't have a season of headliners, because it's important to be able to have those tickets for other events that have a broader economic appeal to people. And I like to be a place for emerging artists when we can. I like to find artists. But one of the best backhanded compliments we get here at the Grand, and it happens more than you think, is someone will say, "Hey, artist so-and-so, fill in the blank, just played fill in the blank, any venue within 200 miles of here. What a great show it was. Why don't you do something like that?" And I'll answer, in 2008, we brought that artist in here at the Grand, and they just weren't as well known then, and we started it then, and we worked from there. That's happened to us many, many times over the years. And while it's a compliment to our fact finding, it goes back to the idea of we all need to do a better job of making sure people know what it is we're doing and what's going on and where things are happening. So the conversations continue from there, and we move on. I'm peeking up here again at tickets. Let's talk about that. When are you announcing the new season? Boy, there's a great industry discussion going on right now about, do we announce seasons? Do we print brochures when we put tickets on sale? We've all waited to go back to our sponsors, which usually you're doing right now. And now we're just starting to make sure we still have them on board for the new year and looking for new things. What are we gonna do? And so the answer for us is that we're going to announce next week, May 8th specifically. I'm going online with the B Twins, opening up and doing a set for an hour at 7:00, and then at 8:00-ish. I'll come on in a format similar to this, and I'll have announcements of the shows and clips of the artists, and it'll have everything except here's how you get tickets, because I'm still figuring that out. And it's not just, gee, what are we going to do? When are people going to be ready to purchase tickets? That's part of the problem, but the other part of the problem is knowing when we know what the reconfigured seating arrangements are going to be like, because we've got to try to keep that in a way that we want that to work as well. So, but certainly the main save the dates on your calendar you'll have come next week. And these are only the grand shows. I might spend a little time talking about the promoters who have shows lined up already, and certainly highlighting some of the arts partner shows that are, or at least the dates for their shows moving forward, so that you could start to plan. As I told you, the schedule is crazy busy, particularly once we hit November. It's hard to say what's in store for us in July and August or even September, but we are starting to, you'll see dates filling in there as well, and certainly, people. I tell people we're going to open on X date, or we're going to do this show's set up to go here, or they see it online and they're like, seriously? And the answer always is, who knows? We don't know what July is going to be like. We don't know what August is going to be like. We don't know what September is going to be like. The important thing is for us to be ready to go and to be flexible for whatever we need to do. My business by nature is people who, of all ages and all risk factors. I think we're learning that it's not just an age risk factor anymore, but they're all attending. They're all sitting in a room together, and that's where we have to be. We have to really pay attention. And the same thing for artists around the road. I remember in March when we were starting, when this whole thing mushroomed over a span of about 10 days. And I was chatting with artists about, canceling their shows. And a touring artist who plays 20 or 30 cities in the country, they'd be artists would be like, I don't want to be the one who brings the coronavirus to Wisconsin or to Oshkosh or to the Grand. There was a social responsibility on the part of the artists too, to talk about whether or not they were going to. They were, in some cases, decisions were made for us, particularly in the Discovery Series, the education series. As schools were closing, there was no particular issue with any of those folks because the tours were stopping nationally at that point. And one of the things about figuring this out is it's not just a question of how things shoehorn in the calendar or what's going on, but in many cases the acts that I want to bring to Grand are routed. That means that they're playing in multiple cities and in consecutive days, all within a short enough distance of each other. And you want, if you can build a route of 4 days and be one of those days, usually that drives the price down a little bit because they've got a block going on. And it's important to try to figure that out. But sometimes, 2 of the 4 cities have made a decision, and that makes the decision for the other cities along the way. There's been places where the artists were the ones who drove this and said, hey, our tour is falling apart. We need to reschedule. By and large, we've been very fortunate. The relationships we've had over the years has led us into artists who have been very willing to help us find alternative ways to do things. Ooh, a light just flicked on and off. I know people love those paranormal stuff, but it looks like a lamp just burned out. So nothing too crazy going on. But yeah, the dark theater is right there behind me if you're having trouble figuring out exactly where I am. So I did turn on lights. So that's where we are with this. I seem to have found my way through most of the questions here today. I will tell you that daily things change for us, and so I would encourage you to follow us on Facebook, to check out the website, thegrandoshkosh.org. There is actually a COVID-19 response page that talks about canceled and rescheduled shows, that talks about the United We Grand campaign, that talks about all of the things that we need to try to be making happen along the way. So certainly check back often, because things change at a pace, at a fast pace, and the more we learn, the better we go. So again, I would say to you that I would encourage you to check back often, to please check out the Grand at Home YouTube page or the Facebook group, and look for the things that are there. I just posted. Not only am I posting on the Facebook group where I can highlight certain things, not just artists who are on our YouTube channel, but other artists who have found their way to be doing this kind of work as well. And if I see something happening with them, I'm going to promote them. I just put a link on that page for an online unplugged concert that Jeff Daniels is going to be giving. Jeff, of course, has been a favorite performer here for years. And he'll be doing a show there this weekend on the Grand at home on Friday night. We've got a live show. We'll see how I deal with the technology for that. It'll be great. Brian James is joining us for a live show Friday night. And Saturday we have Aaron Krebs and it's Johnston, yes, duo will be joining us as well. So we have a Friday night and Saturday night entertainment for you. Next week, of course, we've got a show on Friday with the B Twins and the announcement of the new season. And then on Saturday, the artist will be announced coming soon. And I do want to say something about that page. Those artists are performing for free. You can watch those for free. Just go to the page, go to the YouTube page, connect on whatever connections we've got, and enjoy the show. That said, there is an opportunity to support the artists and the Grand if you choose. You don't have to do it to watch, but if you choose, there is a link to part of our United We Grand Fund that is specifically for these shows. And if you make a donation, you'll see the artists. It's kind of like a little store. You find the artist, you click on there, you go to that spot, and if you make a donation, half of that donation will go to the Grand, half of it will go directly to the artist. So there's an opportunity there, because you got to remember that these artists are also suffering. This is, for a lot of people, their one livelihood, and they got no place to perform now. So it's great when they are generous with their time for us, but if there's something you can do that will help them while you help us, then certainly we appreciate that. And lastly, tomorrow, this is it's kind of an invite-only thing for teachers to find their way for right now, because people ask us all, frequently, is the Discovery Series, who attends it, and it's primarily, it's created for the students, and the way that it's put together is for groups of students to attend, whether it's a classroom, whether it's a group of homeschoolers, or however that works out. So the teachers and the administrators and the homeschoolers, teachers and associations, those are the people who drive this work. You can't walk up to the box office and buy a ticket for one of the shows in the Discovery Series. And it's because it's geared to be a special thing for these kids. A lot of them are getting their first experience of live theater when they come into the Grand, and they'll walk past me in the lobby and they'll say, "Gee, you got a really nice house." And you watch them do this. Of course, I watch adults do that too. But it's so important for us to have that experience. So we'll be announcing that going into the week as well. And in the meantime, if you have any questions and you didn't get a chance to do it tonight, well, I'll be back next week. And feel free to shoot them to us. We're answering emails every day. You can find those addresses at the website, again, thegrandoshkosh.org. You can find us on Facebook. The Grand at Home is connected to our page, and also it's a private group, a public group that you can join, and it's connected to our YouTube page. And you can keep yourselves entertained there. There's more to come. There's students to come there. There's stuff for kids coming to that page, as well as the Friday, Saturday night mini concerts. So come back and see us often. Don't forget us. We won't forget you. And hopefully you will be able to help us with the United We Grand of the spring campaign. And even if you can't, the kind words and the positive thoughts go a long way as well. So on behalf of all of us here at the Grand, I do thank you for tuning in. I thank you for your support. I thank you for those great letters that are coming our way. And we hope to see you again in person before too very long. Thanks for joining me tonight. We'll see you soon.